Are you depressed, overwhelmed, anxious, stressed out about the next catastrophe about to befall you?
Yes.
Well, don't worry. Just kidding. That never works. So are we. And we're whining about history, the Women's History podcast, where we are anxious and depressed and disassociating at random times and just trying to get through the day.
Just a little bit crazy.
And our coping mechanism is whining about badass babes from history that you probably haven't heard of, but Def should have. I'm Emily.
I'm Kelly.
What's up? Are you mentally ill? Do you like women's history? This is the podcast for you.
I was like, Emily, it sounds like you're going into like a host read ad instead of like the intro to the podcast.
If I had actually thought of this intro more than half a second before we hit record, I would have written a side effects may include. That
would have been so funny.
Side effects may include diarrhea, knowledge, hating the patriarchy, righteous anger.
Crying.
Hangovers.
All the time.
Crying. Obsession with pugs
Urge
and
to drink
chihuahuas
wine.
and
Yeah,
cats.
exactly. Urge to drink wine constantly.
Insane girl crushes.
Yeah.
Absurd hero worship. Being made to feel inadequate by people who have been dead for 200 years.
Yay.
Oh my goodness. Well,
yeah, sometimes I feel like our coping mechanism maybe makes us feel worse.
I'm not ready to have that discussion.
Okay. One day. We'll get there one day.
What I'm working on in therapy is keeping me pretty busy. And Kelly, you're always telling me to like not take everything on. So I will address my doom scrolling and
Later.
my rigorous history learning, which then makes the present even more terrifying. I will save that for later. I will deal with that at a later date.
Yeah. We'll just put a little flag on that one for
We're just gonna put
later.
a pin in that and put it in the back of my brain with all the other things that I don't want to deal with.
Yeah, that
like
sounds about good.
Laundry and dishes.
Yeah. I always tell people like, I mean, I have a lot of stuff. I have too much stuff. But I always tell people like the state of my like my house is never dirty. It's cluttered. But like the state of my house reflects how my mental health is. So like the worse my house looks, the worse my mental health is. And then it's a cyclical process of, you know, I'm depressed. So my house gets messy, not dirty, messy. I do still clean it, but it gets messy. And then I get upset that my house is messy. And then the cycle just continues.
See, I'm in a constant state of being a mess. But my depending on my mood, my coping mechanisms change. So like sometimes it's I avoid everything in my house gets messy, or sometimes it's I'm avoiding doing something else hard, so I obsessively clean. You know, or like I suddenly start doing yard work. Like I did a bunch of mulch stuff last night on a whim because I was just like, I need to get this done.
Yeah.
And then I remembered that I hadn't really eaten and I kind of crashed.
As one does. I'm not even going to judge because like I've definitely done that before.
100%. Oh my goodness. Well, Kelly, what are you drinking today?
Literally nothing.
Oh, cool.
I forgot to grab a drink.
I have a little whiskey in my Toppling Goliath Brewing, like tasting glass. It is lovely and it is delicious.
Very nice.
And it is whiskey. Yeah, we are recording remotely today because the holiday kind of snuck. What?
I said life because life.
Yeah, no, sorry. I thought you said like, and I'm like, what?
No, life.
Yeah, life. The holiday definitely snuck up on me where Kelly's like, hey, when are we recording? And I'm like, oh, fuck, it's the 4th of July.
I was like,
and
Friday's
that's the Friday,
the 4th of July.
I'm, total mess. So, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm booked up every day. Shit. And so, Kelly, thank you for squeezing in this last minute recording.
You're welcome.
Brought to you by whiskey and mental health problems.
Yeah, right.
Please do not combine whiskey with mental health problems.
Not recommended for most people.
Lead by my words, not my example.
Yeah.
Well, Kelly, cheers to a safe holiday
There you go.
where everyone maintains the number of digits that they had before the holiday.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to be like, please don't blow your fingers off.
I saw this post online where it was like, this is I think it was from like last weekend, and it was someone's like, this is the last weekend someone is going to have all 10 of their fingers. And at first I laughed, and I'm like, oh my God, but that's super fucking true. And that's really creepy. And and then of course I had like a bunch of x-rays of people who have like blown their fingers off. And I'm like, no.
Yeah, you're like, I didn't mean that, but okay. Yeah, that's not going to be me. I don't
like fireworks. I don't like fireworks. That's not my jam.
I maybe light a sparkler. That's the extent of what I do.
Yeah. Yeah. They stress me out. Things that explode stress me out. And that's another thing that I'm going to put a pin in and address later in therapy. No, I'm kidding. That's a completely natural way to feel about things that explode.
Yeah, I think you're good. I think your therapist would be like, that's fine. We don't need to work on that.
We don't need to work on that. That's normal. That was actually one of my favorite things when I first got into therapy, as a teenager. Because I was like,
being told stuff is normal.
Well, and there were some OCD rituals that I did obsessively. And my therapist worked with me on like kind of tapering those back. Oh, but there were some that I still did. And she's like, okay, do you have to stop everything you're doing to complete this ritual? Mm-hmm. Does it like significantly impact your life? Or is it just like a tick or a quirk? And I'm like, well, I guess it doesn't really impact my life. And she's like, then fucking do it. That's fine. And I was like, oh my God, I'm allowed to be weird.
Yeah. Well, and I always say that to people, like there's a big difference between like having a symptom of a mental disorder and actually having a mental disorder. And that is exactly that line of like, does it impact your daily functioning or not?
Yeah. We're all fucked up. We're all sick in the head. It's kind of hard not to be at this moment in time.
Woo.
Well, cheers.
Cheers to my non-existent stuff. I should probably grab something to drink at some point, but it's fine.
Oh, okay. That was a little better.
I could like hear the liquid in it that time.
Yes,
that was good.
Good ASMR content.
Good job.
ASMR mommy is here to please you. So
like,
Kelly,
I like randomly forget about that, and then like you bring it back, and I love it.
ASMR mommy wants to hear who the fuck you're whining about. Kelly's like, I can't.
You have to shut the fuck up, Emily.
Like, no, Emily, shut the fuck up, because the way my face is contorting from like
trying
cringe,
not to laugh
like,
and cringe.
Recover from it.
Exactly, like those like when your parents say your face is gonna stick like that. My face is gonna be stuck like that, and then I won't be able to tell my story, and then everyone will be very sad.
All right. Okay, I'm done. Who are you whining about?
I am whining about Nancy Hart.
Ooh, I
love that name. It's a very basic name, but I like it. I'm a fan.
She sounds like the heroine in like a Nancy Drew book, like a spunky young detective. Nancy Hart is on the case, and it just makes me think of truth.
Makes me think of Roxy Hart from Chicago. Roxy Hart. That's all I think about. So I've literally been singing that song in my head for like a week.
We have got to watch that movie together. I know we've both seen it independently, but it's just so good. It's so good.
So good. Okay. Anyways, Nancy Hart. So my story actually starts off with a little bit of old-timey dictionary so that I don't have to explain it in the middle of my story and ruin it. So I have 2 words that we get to learn today.
Oh.
The first one is wig. WHIG.
Oh, okay.
So
I'm like, Kelly.
Yeah, different.
I watch RuPaul's
ones.
Drag Race. Yeah. I know what a wig is.
Right.
I'm very cultured.
This version of a wig. Enunciate the H. Wig.
Cool wig.
So this is terms from the Revolutionary War. And so Whigs were colonists who favored independence, also known as patriots, also known as, eventually, I guess that they would both end up being Americans. The interesting thing is, later in American history, there is the Whig political party. They're not the same. Just so you know that.
And that's
Very
why I was a little
interesting.
confused when you said, like, they're the ones who favored independence. I'm like, I thought the Whig Party was kind of like...
Yep. Yeah, like when I was
Little-
looking it up, like it's like
stuffy.
it specifies like, just so you know, there is a formal political party. They are not related. This version is is a group united by the opposition of British rule. So it's the people that are fighting against the British for independence.
Yeah, what they do have in common is that they could have used a better brand manager.
Right? Like, why?
Whig?
Why Whig?
With an H? Like,
It's
God.
it's just pompous. Like, come on.
Well, and there's so many bad puns, like wig out, like the idea of a wig. I don't know. It's just
Yep. Too bad they didn't
Now,
have
if they
us as
spelled
brand
it all
managers.
lowercase with no H and a period at the end, that'd be hot.
Wig, full stop.
Wig.
So the other dictionary term is Tory. I feel like I was a little bit more familiar with this one. So Tory is the opposite. This is colonists who remained loyal to the British crown and fought alongside the British armies against the patriots who sought independence. These are also known as the loyalists. But for some reason, all of the sources I used Whig and Tory. And I'm like, Tory, I know. I had to Google the other one. But so I'm just prefacing it at the beginning.
And the Tories are also a political party in the modern day United Kingdom.
Yeah.
And they are
It's interesting.
also have a bunch of sticks up their asses.
Yeah. So these are all people that would become Americans. Just it was whether you were fighting against the British or for them.
Yep.
Okay. On to Nancy. So as with many women that we cover from like the earlier eras, really detailed or explicit information on good chunks, like major chunks of their life are missing, unfortunately. And Nancy is not any different, unfortunately. Again, they believe she was born Nancy Ann Morgan. They believe she was born in North Carolina in about 1735, though some people have also said Pennsylvania or New York State. One of the colonies, obviously.
Around that general area.
Yeah, you know, New England somewhere.
New England-ish.
We know she married Benjamin Hart.
For the name.
Nancy Hart. I mean, yeah, why not?
100%.
And together they would have a total of 6 sons and 2 daughters. I didn't even have information on like how many of them survived to adulthood or anything like that. But we know she had 8 children total throughout their marriage. Okay.
That's a lot of fucking kids.
Yeah, I know. So during the 1770s, Nancy Benjamin and all the tots left North Carolina. So at some point we know they were living in North Carolina. And they moved to the great state of Georgia. Which I was
Georgia.
I didn't even realize Georgia was a colony at that time, but okay.
It's funny because like when we think of the colonies, I think we definitely think like everything in New England. And then we're like,
13 original colonies.
oh my God, I never learned that song.
What?
I never learned that song.
Wow.
No, but I still remember who sailed the ocean blue in 1492 and what his stupid fucking genocide ships were called. God.
If I think hard enough, I probably could. Anyways,
The
we're
weird
off topic
shit
again.
that like sticks with you from when you were a kid, and you're like,
oh yeah,
I'm gonna be old, and my brain is gonna have holes all up in it, and I'm not gonna remember a goddamn thing, except for this one stupid thing about a monster who I wish never existed.
Well, and the weird thing is like, Georgia is a part of the 13 original colonies. I just never remember it.
I also don't.
Because like when I think of, I don't know. Yeah. I think of like I just think of New England when I
Yeah.
think of like the colonies.
I'm like, there are a couple a little further south, but we don't talk about them.
Yeah. No, we don't.
Although the Atlanta airport
forbidden.
is lovely.
I've never been to Georgia. Anyways. So yeah, they moved to Georgia and they settled in the area of the Broad River Valley, which is northeast of Piedmont, which I thought was in North Dakota. I'm pretty sure there's a Piedmont, North Dakota.
I'm pretty sure there's a Piedmont everywhere.
Yeah, it's kind of like Springfield. There's just one in every state.
Or Plainview.
So during this time, obviously, women were not educated, and Nancy was, again, no different. She was illiterate, did not know how to read or write. However, she was extremely skilled at a lot of other things, and most people say she probably would have been very intelligent had she had the chance to be educated. But, living in the colonies, you're kind of a frontiers person, and Nancy really took that to heart, particularly when they moved to Georgia, and she kind of became this like survival frontiers woman. She became like an expert herbalist. She became a skilled hunter. She was known to be an excellent shot, and she was known in the area that like she ran the household, not her husband, which was very uncommon. Like, it's funny because this period is in a weird time where like the husband still ran the household, even though they weren't necessarily home. That was not the case in the Hart household. Apparently Nancy very much like ran the household. And she's also known for having a quick temper, being kind of like a fearless spirit, and she had a penchant for exacting vengeance upon those who offended her or harmed her family. I wish I had more stories of that, but I don't. But like literally like multiple sources were like, yeah, she did not take kindly to like insults of her or her family or anything like that.
You know why we don't have those stories? Because the people who crossed her are dead, and the people who survived know not to fucking cross her and be telling those goddamn stories.
Yeah. So according to some contemporary accounts, she was often because with all women, they have to have. We may not have a ton of accounts of her, but we have a description, which I was like, of course we fucking do. But she was supposedly tall and gangly. She was like a bigger boned girl, red hair. She must have had smallpox when she was young, because they said she had like a scarred face, probably from smallpox. And apparently one account said, I don't know how that we have this quote. I assume it was in a letter. Don't know. But one account said, quote, Nancy had no share of beauty, a fact she herself would have readily acknowledged had she ever enjoyed an opportunity to look in a mirror.
That's a burn. That's a cold. That is
oof.
a.
But I mean, like,
I love
it sounds like apparently it's a self burn.
Well, it's like, hey, she would totally agree
see.
if she ever looked in the fucking mirror, which is, again, like, she obviously doesn't because she is unattractive. Also, I didn't know you could be big-boned and gangly.
What?
I didn't know you could be big-boned and gangly.
I know.
I
don't know.
I'm very
But also,
confused.
like, if you're living on the frontier, I'm pretty sure, like, a mirror is one of those things that you're like, I don't give a shit about owning one of these,
I'm pretty sure you also don't give a shit what you look like.
Exactly.
Like, you got to get the work done. That is what you're worried about. You're worried about what your body can do, not what it looks like.
Yeah.
And also, I'm sorry, no one in the 1700s was hot.
No, exactly. Like,
they just weren't. It was a totally different standard of beauty.
Yeah. So Nancy became famous, depending on who you talk to, during the Revolutionary War. Unlike some of the other women we've covered in the Revolutionary War, she did not disguise herself as a soldier or anything like that, though. I briefly touch on there are some accounts that maybe she dressed as a man, but unlike a lot, like, she didn't really go to war. The war kind of came to her. So
I like the idea that, like, there are accounts that she dressed as a man, and she's like, it was actually just a lot easier to wear pants, or like all the skirts were dirty and I had to wear pants. Everyone's like, she's a cross dresser. It's like, oh my fucking God, I'm just trying to plow a field, bitch.
Like, I'm a fucking frontierswoman woman with 8 children. Like, I just want to wear pants.
I'm gonna wear whatever the fuck I want, and leggings are pants. Yoga pants are pants. Get off my junk.
So probably like the most common story or lore about Nancy is that during the Revolution, about 1779-ish, a group of 5 or 6 Tory soldiers. So Nancy was firmly on the side of the Patriots. So she is a Whig, firmly on the side of the Patriots.
Because she fucking hates
pro-America,
except her own authority.
Yeah, exactly. She honestly, like, I think of, like, you did that one short that was like, oh, we're fighting a war. Okay. Like, I feel like that's probably how she was. She was like, oh, we're being attacked by the British. Cool. I'm going to just, like, keep doing my shit.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like that's probably how Nancy was. But at this point, like I said, the war came to her. And so 5 or 6 Tory soldiers came to her home, not to like pillage or plunder, but supposedly they were either like genuinely like asking for food or looking for a Whig commander. Accounts vary, as they do with this kind of thing, but they were apparently not very pleasant to Nancy, and they demanded that she cook for them. Like, they were like, kill one of your like birds. They had like turkeys, and they were like, kill one of your birds, cook them, you know, give us all your wine and beer and like whatever like basically they had, and like basically tend to us.
This is the 1700s version of choosy beggars on Reddit.
Oh God, yeah.
They're going door to door.
Except these ones have guns.
Asking for food. And then just being like, so you gotta give us the beer, you gotta give us the wine, but none of that cheap stuff. I want a rosé.
Well, and I do wonder when they say like asking if it was really just like give us your fucking food.
You're being voluntold because they have guns. I mean,
well,
really,
and
if
too, like,
someone has a weapon, there is no consent in that situation. It's a threat.
Well, and you think about it, like if Nancy's a frontierswoman, like she's probably on a lot of land. They probably don't have a ton of like super close neighbors, so
right,
you know, also like, yeah, I think it's one of those things of like, okay, if I can get them to not injure or, you know, like molest me by feeding them, I'm going to do it.
Also, I'm sorry, gun or not, manners cost nothing.
Yeah. Oh,
like,
they had some manners, because as they entered the cabin, Nancy asked them to put their guns by the door. You know, they're like, she's like, you're entering my home, like put your guns by the door, sit down, I'll feed you. So they did that.
It's like shoes off.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
just
right?
swept, guns by the door. Put your toys away before we have dinner.
Exactly. But she did. She was the perfect host, made sure they had plenty to eat and drink. And as they were eating and drinking, there was apparently a hole in the side of the cabin, according to lore. I'm like, I have questions about that. I assume she probably pushed them out through the front door, but the sources said through a hole in the wall. But she, like, one by one, like, moved their guns outside or out of their range.
Oh.
As, you know, like I said, she was pretending to be, like, the perfect hostess, making sure they had plenty of food and, you know, wine and stuff like that.
Oh, get those dudes
exactly,
super
like
drunk.
Hammered, yeah. So
100%.
after they had been drinking for what she deemed a sufficient amount of time, she grabbed one of the guns she hadn't put outside and ordered the men to stay still. One of the men ignored her threat, probably, you know, just being like, oh, you're a woman, you're not actually going to shoot me. Yeah, she shot him.
Yay!
She killed him. And then as she was like killing him, another made a move toward the remaining weapons and she killed him as well. So there were 5 or 6 to begin with. There is now four-ish men alive. So at this point, she was just like, if you just stay seated at the table, like, we're not gonna have any problems. And she essentially just held them captive until her husband and some neighbors did arrive, because her husband wasn't home at the time. And the legend goes that, you know, when they were discussing what to do, her and her husband was like, oh, we should just shoot them and be done with it. And she was like, no, we're gonna fucking hang them from tree outside, and they're gonna learn their fucking lesson.
Oh my fucking God.
And supposedly that's what they did. So Nancy won. She wore the pants. So there are obviously like slight variations on this story and this legend. However, there is some evidence that it may actually be true. And that evidence is that in 1912, when they were working on the Alberton and Easton Railroad in the area, when they were grading one of the railroad sites that was about a mile-ish from where the Hart cabin would have been, they found 5 or 6 skeletons buried neatly in a row, a few of which had their necks broken, suggested hanging, and it was determined that they had been buried for at least 100 years. So there's no like definitive proof, but I think that's as good as we're going to get.
I think what we can assume is a version of this story occurred.
Yes, I'm going
at some point.
Yeah. I just think it's so cool that like, you know, because so many times like we hear like, oh, we don't know what happened. And there's all this like different things. It's like, no, we don't know what happened. And there's a good chance. Yeah. Like something similar to what was told happened, which I thought was cool.
Yeah. Normally we don't get an according to family lore and these 6 bodies.
Yeah, exactly.
as evidence. Jesus.
So there were numerous other stories. Like some of her children did survive into adulthood because one of Nancy's descendants, a woman named Louisa Kendall, was the niece of one of her sons. So great niece. And she actually like wrote a letter to someone and was like talking to this person about like, oh, here's some stories of my uncle's mother. So Nancy. And like one of the stories was that one time she was taking like a big bag of grain to the mill and a band of Tories like forced her off her horse and forced her horse off the road and like threw the grain on the ground and like, you know, we're kind of just like picking on her. And she was just like, fine, if you're not going to like let me by on my horse, I'm just going to walk. And she picked up like this massive bag of grain and just like walked to the mill because she was just like, fuck you guys, like I need to mill this grain, like, which I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Isn't there a show or a movie where a woman is like only allowed to leave with what she can carry and she like picks up the dude and carries him out or something?
Yep. Yeah, I don't remember what it is, but I do. Yeah,
God.
that is. It's like, fine, I'm taking you then.
That's what this
I remember
sounds
that.
like, where it's like, fine, I'll just fucking carry it. Fuck you guys.
Yeah, she's like, fine, if you want me to buy my horse, I'll just fucking walk.
That's the like angry, spiteful energy that I really need to harness.
Yeah. There are also reports that she may have acted as a sniper. Remember, she was known to be a very excellent shot. Supposedly, they lived by the Broad River, so supposedly she would act as a sniper on one side of the river, killing Tories as they came across. And supposedly, I personally like the nickname, but apparently during the Revolutionary War, Nancy gained the nickname the Iron Lady, which I was like, yeah, she definitely strikes me as that person that's like, just, you know, like a hard ass, but like in a good way, like where it's like if she cares about you, she cares about you.
She's a woman that you definitely want on your side.
Oh God, yeah.
But it's like having a grenade. Like, you know, you can pull the pin and throw it at someone else, but you do not want to pull the pin anywhere near you. Like, you do not fuck with her.
Exactly.
You don't mess around.
So one of the other stories that's a little less like most of the stories I've said up to this point, like there are multiple like accounts. This one, there's only like one account, but I liked it, so I included it. So another story supposedly said that one day when Nancy was cooking lye soap in her cabin, her daughter was helping her and discovered that there was a Tory spy like looking in through a crack in the wall.
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
Right. And so Nancy, being Nancy, threw a ladle of boiling soap into this person's eyes. And then as he was screaming in agony, I would assume you'd be screaming in agony. Went outside, tied him up and just brought him to the local Patriot militia and was like, here, I'm going to go back and make some soap.
By the way, I just remembered what
the quote
movie we
I
were
just made
thinking
up.
of,
Yeah.
where it's Ever After.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're
Drew
right.
Barrymore has to carry the prince away from the bandits or whatever, and they're all like laughing, and she just like hoists him up and starts walking away like,
yeah, and they're
y'all.
like, oh geez, yeah.
Yep, that's it.
And then yeah, there are one or two accounts that say that she may have also dressed as a man, specifically to enter Tory camps to like overhear talk and stuff like that, to kind of act as a spy. Those are a little like more contested, but yeah. So after the war, there's a lot of, my brain just like forgot the word. There are accounts that talk about that she became very religious. Like apparently she knew the governor of Georgia, or like the person who was going to be the governor of Georgia. And he's like one of the people that wrote about like, yeah, she became very, and he put it in quotes, religious after the war. And I'm like, I don't know what that means.
Because Nancy is not the woman who follows anyone else's religion. She's got it all figured out in her head.
Yeah.
And that's what she follows. And it may not be other people's definitions, but she's like, no, I'm super pious. I'll shoot a bitch, but I got my reasons.
Right. So the man's name was George Rockingham Gilmer, which I was like,
Jesus.
yeah, okay.
That's
And like
an amazing
he would
name.
actually be the governor of Georgia twice. But so he wrote like the accounts of early settlers. And like I said, he included Nancy because, of course, like when you know a woman like this, how do you not include her in something? But he wrote about the early settlers, and Nancy was a Methodist society was formed in Nancy's neighborhood, and she went to the house of worship in search of relief. She found the good people assembled in class meeting, and the door closed against intruders. She took out her knife, cut the fastening, and stalked inside. She heard how the wicked might work out their salvation and became a shouting Christian, fought the devil as manfully as she fought the Tories. Which I was like, that's amazing. One, I like that, like, they were like, hey, we're gonna secure ourselves so we can like pray in peace. And she's like, fuck that shit. Like, I'm coming in and I'm hearing what you have to say.
Yep.
I just also like that they called her a shouting Christian. Like, that's just funny.
You know, normally I'm like, we need fewer shouting Christians, but this bitch is not fucking around, and I kind of love that.
Later in life, the Harts would move to Brunswick, Georgia. They may have also traveled in other places in the South as well, such as Alabama and South Carolina, but it's a little harder to track, whereas like Brunswick, we're like, okay, they have like a deed to the land, kind of like there's a paper trail. Benjamin would die shortly after they moved in the late 1780s-ish. And Nancy actually, after he passed, would basically immediately return to, or try to return to the cabin on the river. Probably because I'm like, yeah, if that's where you spent most of your life, like married life, why wouldn't you want to go back there? However, when she tried to go back to her cabin, she found that the river had flooded and there really wasn't much left of her cabin, which is very, very sad.
Oh, you can't go home again.
So Nancy would wander for a little while and eventually would settle with one of her sons, John Hart, whose niece is the one I talked about earlier. And he just lived in a different part of Georgia, and so that was fine. And then in 1803, so like Nancy's still kicking. In 1803, John, Nancy, and his family would move to Kentucky. And she would kind of just live a pretty quiet life for the rest of her life. And I couldn't, like, even her death date is contested. Like, obviously she is dead. That'd be very scary otherwise.
Is she?
But the estimate,
I need a body to confirm that this
Right?
bitch ever died.
So the estimate is that she died in like 1830-ish.
Wait.
Which I'm like, that would make her 95 years old, and that seems a little long.
I was like 1830. We were just in the 1770s.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm like because yeah, they estimate she was born around 1735 and died around 1830. I'm like, Jesus Christ. I feel like she just lived out of spite. Like in a good way.
She didn't die. She was like, I'm ready to be done now, and just ascended into whatever
like,
her heaven looks like.
No, she just like she literally just walked into the sunset, never to be seen again.
Yeah. Oh my God. You know, it's so interesting because like she's obviously this tough, badass woman.
Yeah.
But she's not like, had there not been a literal Revolutionary War going on and people like busting into her house with guns and being like, cook bitch, I don't think she would have like murdered anyone.
No, like I think she would have been a badass frontierswoman, but yeah, like as long as no one crossed her, she probably would have been fine.
But it's also kind of sad. Like I'm thinking about like she's in this position where she kills these guys and like, yeah, they were in the wrong, but that's still a lot. So when you talked about her getting religious later on, I'm like, I wonder if that kind of fucking bothered her.
Yeah.
Like she did what she had to do given the situation and like the horrible circumstances. But like, I think of the
Yeah.
Oversteegen sisters, like they didn't like
God,
what
yeah.
they did.
No,
like,
and
like we talk about it, we're like, whoa, badass, killing Nazis. It's like, man,
But yeah,
they
in the
were
moment,
children
yeah.
in war. Like that's horrifying.
Well, yeah, like I was thinking about it, and like even like the governor, I think, saw that because he even said like she went to the house of worship in search of relief. Like, so I think she had probably some form of like PTSD of just like, I didn't want to kill a man, but like, don't fuck with me, but I still don't feel good about it.
Well, she's like, I need to survive. I need to make sure my family survives. And y'all are coming in
Exactly.
here and taking everything from
Well,
us.
and if
you
her
have
kids,
guns.
well, and if her kids are still young, it's also like protecting her kids. Because I don't know
that's
how old her
big
kids
mama
were
bear
at that
energy.
time. Exactly.
Yeah.
So she's
even if they're
very-
adults,
Oh, exactly.
it doesn't matter. You're a mama bear.
Yeah. So she is buried outside of Henderson, Kentucky, in like a family cemetery. One cool thing that did happen actually in, they said the early 20th century. So I'm like, I don't actually know when this happened. But the Daughters of the American Revolution, which I can only hope and pray are better than the Daughters of the Confederacy, but that's a very low bar. So
They're a different okay. Full
no, they're a
disclosure,
very different organization.
Yeah,
But I'm
I
just
have
saying,
not
like,
read about the Daughters of the Revolution. Here's the thing, though. Every time you start a sentence with the Daughters of the, I'm always
oh, I know. I was like, Emily's gonna get real mad.
I'm like, don't fucking do this to me.
But from what I read about, I mean, you know, it's a lineage based service organization for women. Da, 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 da. But this one is very focused on, like, it is a nonprofit. It's non-political. It's literally just focused on like education and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, they seem better. I didn't do a deep dive.
Instead of lying about the American Civil War and saying that black people like to be enslaved.
And
they
honestly,
needed to
like,
be.
we won the American Revolution, so it's also harder to be like, you know, because it's like, no, we actually like won this one. We did gain our independence.
Yeah.
But the thing that they did that I thought was cool was on the site that they approximated to be where Nancy Hart's cabin was, they rebuilt it. Like I said, approximately the same location. And so, yeah, they used chimney stones that were recovered from the site of what they believe is the original cabin.
Oh, wow.
And like all of this stuff. And I don't know if it's still there. Like, I couldn't find it, but I also am like, I don't know what do I Google to see if it's still there, you know, but so it may or may not be there. Either way, I think it's cool that they like rebuilt it anyways. Like, that's super cool. And Georgia and Georgians in particular have actually memorialized Nancy Hart quite often. Like, they're very, very proud of her. I'm like, yeah, like legit.
I would be.
Yeah. So Hart County is supposedly named for her, as well as the county seat, Hartwell. During the American Civil War, a group of women in LaGrange, Georgia, founded an all-female militia company, which they named the Nancy Harts, which I'm going to have to do like a sub-episode on because that's cool. But basically, like, they were just a small militia to like defend their town against the Union Army because all of the men of fighting age had left. But still,
Right.
like, that's kind of cool. Like, yes, they're on the wrong side of the war, and it sounds kind of interesting.
Well, I will say, like, yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone could accuse us of being like on the Confederate side on this podcast.
No,
I will say,
I mean, even the woman I just covered that was a Confederate, we were kind of like,
Yeah.
It wasn't like yay Confederacy. It was just like chaos.
it was holy fucking shit. What is this woman?
Yeah.
But you know, when you're at war and you have lost your primary defense mechanism,
Oh God, yeah.
and the enemy army is coming through, yeah, you want to protect yourself. I get that.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a big thing too. It's like they're not going out and fighting the war. They're literally protecting their own families, you know.
Yeah, and it would be completely inaccurate to say that the Union Army never committed atrocities. Just like it'd also be inaccurate to say the Confederate Army never committed atrocities.
Exactly.
So
Honestly, most armies have probably committed some atrocities. But anyways, so there
so weird how
is
war brings that out in people.
Yeah. So there's also a Lake Hartwell, Hartwell Dam, and Hart State Park, all named for her, all in Georgia. She was also inducted into the Georgia Women of Achievement in 1997. And there is a chapter of the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution, which, Jesus Christ, that's a mouthful, that they renamed in honor of her, which I was like, that makes sense. Like, if you're talking about descendants of people from this war and she's kind of like your state's like, look at this person we had during this war, it makes sense to rename someone after her. But I think it shows, like, you know, we always talk about like, oh, look at the women that went off and fought for war, but I think it's also important to talk about, yeah, like, there were plenty of women that didn't go off and fight for war but still had to defend themselves or their families or, you know, things like that. And I stumbled upon, I don't even actually remember how I stumbled upon Nancy, but I like stumbled upon her and I was like, that sounds interesting. And then I like dove deeper and I was like, yep, that's kind of weird and interesting and like just kind of like a one-off. And I was really sad because there was a news article about like the skeletons. It was called "The Skeletons of Tories Killed by Nancy Hart Unearthed Tuesday," but the link didn't work, and I was like, God damn it! I just wanted to read the news article.
Check your
but if I find
links,
it, I'll have
people.
to find it. So yeah, that is Nancy Hart and her, you know, vivacious attitude of just like, don't fuck with me, don't fuck with my family, just leave us alone.
You know, she was the find out.
Exactly.
People fucked around, and then she was like, all right, I guess you find out now. Like, hey, This was not how I was planning for my day to go. This isn't what I wanted to do with my day. But I guess we're here.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I also really like her story because you mentioned like there are women who dress as men and fought in the war or followed their husbands. You know, it's like women were literally everywhere in every aspect of every conflict ever.
So,
okay, like, you know, this is just another example. Like, Nancy Hart is exceptional in like her legend, but she wasn't the only woman who was like trying to defend her home and her kids and keep shit together while the fate of the hypothetical country was in the balance.
Right. So one thing I forgot to mention is that there is, or was, I can't tell if it's still named after her, but there is like is or was a like highway in Georgia, like, or part of a highway in Georgia named after her. And there is actually like a plaque that this is what the plaque says. So it says, I didn't include this part, but I'll talk about this after. So on Wahatachi Creek in Revolutionary times lived Nancy Morgan Hart, her husband Benjamin, and their children. 6 feet tall, masculine in strength and courage, Nancy Hart was a staunch patriot, a deadly shot, a skilled doctor, and a good neighbor. A spy for the colonists, she is credited with capturing several Tories, and later with her son John and his family, she joined a wagon train to Henderson County, Kentucky, where she is buried. Hart County, the Nancy Hart Highway, and schools in Elbert and Hart counties are named for her. A replica of her log home with chimney stones from the original is in the Nancy Hart Park, 1.5 miles from here. Now I know what to Google.
When the fuck did she become a doctor?
I think it was one of those, like, she was a frontier, like, I called her an herbalist because that's what a lot of the things, I think she was you know, a frontiers woman. But the interesting thing, I have two things. One, supposedly, like giant asterisk because I don't know. I didn't do a ton of research. But actually, according to the United States Bureau of Roads in Washington, D.C., this is from 1950. So that's when like this highway got dedicated to Nancy. Apparently, at least in 1950, this was the only highway in the United States named for a woman.
Holy shit.
So that's pretty cool. But the other caveat I wanted to talk about too is there are some texts that I mentioned the Wahatachi Creek. Wahatachi stands for war woman. And there are some texts that are like, oh, that's for Nancy. No, That's what I'm prefacing with. I kind of dove deep into that because I'm like, oh, that's really, really interesting because like Native Americans do not feature largely in Nancy's story. So I'm like, oh, where does like, why would she get that? And I'm going to look this up quick before I say something wrong because I don't want to say the wrong nation.
I mean, we're wrong a lot.
Yeah, but if I can get the right
Quite
one.
often. I do appreciate you checking your sources and using the wonderful tool that is the internet for knowledge.
So,
and good.
Cherokee. And it's Cherokee. I was going to say Cree, and I'm like, that doesn't sound right. But yeah, so it is a creek that was near her house. And yeah, some people were like, oh, that's definitely her, like War Woman is definitely Nancy. No, because you can look in the Cherokee records and like their history and see that it predates Nancy.
See, and that was my assumption Native American, with it being an indigenous word.
Yeah, well, and being like, there were a lot of like Native American warrior women long before the American Revolution. So Nancy Hart has a highway that might be, or at least was, the only one that was named after a woman. Also, the cabin does appear to still be standing. So I kind of want to go to Georgia now.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, damn, Nancy Hart.
Nancy Hart. All right, Emily.
And they both reached for the gun.
Yeah. No, I mean, no, Nancy already had
She
the
reached
gun.
for all of the guns. She reached for all of them.
Nancy had the gun. The other guy reached for it and died.
Yeah. Well, today I am whining about Margaret Peg Rosella Kinsman and the Waves Wall.
Waves Wall or Waves? Okay, you said it. Like, it sounded like it was one word, and I was like, what?
Waves
Space
Wall.
Okay,
there we go. Yep.
Beautiful.
So
I'm excited about this. I mean, we've heard about the waves and the wax and all of them before. So I'm excited to hear about this. I guess I'm assuming that's the waves you're talking about.
It is. Okay. It is. And I love that, like, we've learned enough doing this podcast where we're like, oh, yeah, I know who the waves are.
Right. Like, I'm like, I don't need that background context.
I'm grounded in reality. I do still give some background because it's,
I mean, you never know. This could be a listener's first time here.
Or maybe we all just need a
I'm
refresher.
sorry.
So when I was in DC for work, one of the places that Caitlin from a tour of her own recommended was the Tabard Inn. So it was pretty close to the hotel I was staying at. It is the longest the longest continuously running inn in DC. So it's seen a lot. It's so fucking cool. So like it's an inn, but they also have a restaurant that anyone can go to, and they have like this beautiful eclectic outdoor patio with like all this like weird art and plants, and like it's amazing.
Fun.
I sent you some pictures. There are like some statues with like really great asses, and I'm like, new butt inspo just dropped.
Hell yeah.
The food was amazing. The coffee was great. My server was I wish I'd written her name down. It was one of those like, I'll remember it. But she was so sweet. And I was listening to a book called The Women that Caitlin had recommended, because I was like, I got there and then realized, oh, I'm having lunch at a restaurant by myself. And I literally cannot remember the last time I did that, if I've ever really done that. But I was just like, just lean into enjoying your own company. You're okay being alone. Everything is fine. And I actually did. It was really nice. It was a good experience. But what Caitlin told me about was there is a waves wall at the Tabard Inn, because it used to be home to waves. So I asked the server, and she's like, let me find more information about that for you. And she goes away, and then like one of the other people who work there comes up, and he's like, I heard that you were asking about the waves wall. I was like, oh shit. Yeah, I was. And he told me where to find it, and I went in there after my lunch and looked around, and that's where I learned about Margaret Peg Rosella Kinsman.
Wow.
So
I'm excited about this.
We need to go to the Tabard Inn just to see the awesome butts. I know I sent you that picture.
Butts. I know you did.
Yeah.
It was great. I was just imagining it in my head.
throughout its 100+ years in business, the Tabard Inn has bared witness to an immense amount of history. And like many during World War II, the oldest continuously running inn in Washington, D.C. did its part for the war effort, hosting members of the Women's Accepted for Volunteer Emergency Service, better known as the Waves. This was the Navy's branch of servicewomen during World War II. Waves and their equivalents, the WACs for the Army and the WASPs for the Air Force, offered opportunities for women in the military that had otherwise been denied. Meant to free up men for combat roles, Waves primarily did clerical work, storekeeping, navigation, worked in hospitals, and as code breakers. Which, for anyone who hasn't listened to Code Girls yet or read it, get on that, because they talk
It's
all
so
about
good,
the WACs, the Waves, and like women in the military doing the code breaking. It is fascinating. So though women couldn't serve in combat roles, they were able to advance to officer ranks, which was a really big deal.
Yeah.
So
and just
advancing
kind
in
of
the
crazy to me, you know, like that. It's
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, you can't do some things, but yeah, you can do others. Like,
Yeah. It's like,
yay, but boo.
well, and it's like, oh, you can't do these things. And then war breaks out and they're like, shit, we got to get all these people trained and we suddenly need all these people. It's like, wow, if only you had thought about that before instead of being a bunch of sexist assholes.
Right. Shocking.
So advancing in the military wasn't every wave's goal. However, many women were driven by their sense of patriotic duty because they had brothers, sons, or husbands serving. Some were looking for adventure, for travel, or hoping for opportunities that just were typically denied to them on the basis of gender. There's a million reasons that women have and continue to enter the military.
Well, yeah, I think, and especially back then, yeah, we did see a lot of women that were just like, I don't want to be a teacher or a mother, and I don't have a ton of other options.
Well, and with the code breaking, so actually, the United States kind of knew like shit was gonna hit the fan. They didn't know about Pearl Harbor, but they kind of knew
They knew we were gonna get dragged into the war eventually.
We need to keep an eye on this situation. So even before World War II broke out, they were tapping elite women's colleges for people who were good at code breaking, and they would give them tests, or they would get recommendations from professors, and then give these women some education in code breaking. They'd be like, hey, you want to come and do this job with the military? And that's how they got into code breaking.
That's
almost
that's so cool.
Kind of clandestine. Like a professor was like, hey, take this test and give it back to me and we'll see how you did. Oh, you did well. Hey, you should go to DC and I don't know, just meet a guy.
Do something.
he's gonna give you a new career as a code breaker. Yeah. So, an influx of women in the military, and particularly in DC, meant that they needed places to stay. In some cases, the military would quickly construct barracks, but mostly they utilized existing spaces, such as the Tabard Inn.
Yeah,
so during World War
awesome.
II, the Tabard Inn served as officer quarters for the Waves, and one of these officers was Margaret Peg Rosella Kinsman. Now, I read somewhere she was known as Peg to her friends. I refer to her as Margaret because normally I'm like, oh yeah, we're all besties in here, but I'm like, Margaret, you have I want to be presumptuous here. You know, I'm just like, I'm just gonna call her by her full name. So born on July 20th, 1919 in Winthrop, Massachusetts, bless you, Margaret, better known as Peg, was one of 5 children. Margaret was an intelligent and active child who wasn't afraid to mix things up with the local boys. In fact, when she was 10 years old, her parents bought her a football helmet so she could stay safe during neighborhood scrimmages.
Okay.
Good parents. They're not like, no, you're gonna get dirty, don't play with the boys. They're like, just please protect your head. Just be
they're
safe.
like, just be safe. Yeah, exactly.
Make good choices, be safe, wear your fucking helmet, okay? This was despite the fact that she was the shortest person in her family, only growing 5 feet in adulthood, which I'm like, I wonder what that's like.
I do wonder what that's like.
I was so like that as a kid, though. I resented anything feminine. And I was like, I want to play with the boys, be tough, and da-da-da.
Of course you did.
And I was super short, and I definitely wasn't overcompensating. So,
you know, as one does.
She had a love of reading, and this led her to earn her degree in library science from Simmons College in 1940. And my mother already loves this woman because she has her master's in library science, and she's a smart cookie.
Yeah, she is.
At this time, the United States was doing its damnedest to stay out of World War II. But the conflict in Europe was raging, and talks of the U.S. joining were beginning. On December 7th, 1941, there was no more question. The U.S. was at war. Pearl Harbor, in case anyone's a little lost.
Yeah,
Pearl Harbor happened. Yeah. I remember I was studying for a test like in elementary school about World War II, and I could not remember the day of Pearl Harbor. And my dad was helping me, and he's not normally like I don't know, like, you need to know this or you're not a patriot. Like he's not like a, nutter like that. But he like got really serious with me. He's like, every American needs to know this date. Yeah. And I think he must have gotten it from his father because his father was in the Air Force during World War II.
Oh, okay. Yeah, probably.
And it like kind of scared me because it was just like such a switch had flipped where it was like, oh, I thought you were just like quizzing me on some shit and we're getting real. And I've never forgotten the date since.
I mean, that's good.
The things I will remember when my brain is full of holes.
Yeah, Swiss cheese, but Pearl Harbor, too big to fit through.
Swiss cheese, but December 7th, 1941, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, motherfuckers. All right. The U.S. military saw a surge of recruits after the attacks on Pearl Harbor, but they were still in need of bodies. Even with approximately 60% of the U.S. military force being conscripted, they were in dire need. So this is something that I think is really interesting about like what I think our conception of history is. World War II actually had more drafted people than the Vietnam War. The Vietnam War had more volunteers because they were raised by all the people who fought in World War II. It was just that in Vietnam, there was a lot of protests about the draft and conscripting people. But yeah, there were more people drafted in World War II, which I'm like, I think that's just so interesting. So to free up men to serve in combat positions, women's volunteer units such as the Waves were created in 1942, allowing women to serve in unprecedented capacities. Margaret joined the Waves in 1943, receiving her training at Mount Holyoke College. And like her in her family, Margaret was the shortest member of her group of graduates. We stan a short queen.
That's kind of funny to me, though.
I love it. I'm like, I wonder what it's like to be oh, wait, no, that's my everyday life.
You're like, wait a minute, that's already me.
That's just my life. That's just how I exist in this world. And Q,
and we love
who is
you for it.
Just like a smidgeny bit shorter than me, she'll like stand on her tiptoes and be like, I'm taller than you, or I'm as tall as you. And I'm like, you're not quite there, but you're definitely going to be taller than me. And she's like, I know I am. I'm like, you think you're rubbing this in my face, but I've been the short person my whole fucking life, okay? This is not news to me. I've had 6-year-olds who are as tall as me, okay?
Yeah, I think my niece might be your height or a little bit taller.
Probably.
She's getting close to my height, which is surprising because my sister's shorter than me. My sister, I think, is your height.
Yeah, but her dad is tall.
Yeah.
Both of my parents are
there.
shorties.
Yeah, they are.
Like my dad, not even just by guy standards, like he's short and my mother is shorter than him. So
yeah.
So she was the shortest member of her group of graduates, but she was elected as company commander, and she would later explain to her daughters that though she was the shortest woman, she had the biggest mouth.
Sounds like Nancy. I mean, Nancy was apparently 6 feet tall, but the mouth part.
I'm very much feeling Margaret right now. Short, but loud.
Sassy as hell.
Like, because you have to be when you're that short. Otherwise, no one knows you're fucking there.
I was like, Emily, are you sure you're not talking about yourself?
I kind of. Short girl energy. Love it. See, it's important to see ourselves in the stories that we tell. Representation's important. So Margaret was promoted to lieutenant junior grade, commissioned ensign, and stationed in Washington, D.C., and stayed at the Tabard Inn. So while serving in D.C., Margaret met Navy Lieutenant Shepard Kinsman.
Oh.
And there's actually, on this waves wall, there is a photo of them in front of the Tabard Inn, and it looks the fucking same, except in black and white. Like, it's the same
so funny.
fucking shit. So Shepard, who had grown up in Grosse Isle, Michigan, I'm probably saying that wrong and I don't give a crap, had a lifelong obsession with boats and cars, making the Navy a natural choice when he enlisted in 1941. He taught radar and sonar technology in the Pacific Islands and would earn several medals during his service. So, like, as far as we're concerned with the story, he was a good egg.
Good.
We'll find out their marriage did not last, but, you know.
I mean, it doesn't mean, do we find it out because he's not a good egg, or was it
No,
just
it's just they do get divorced, but I couldn't find anything that he would, like, sucked or she sucked or anything. It's just, hey, just sometimes
shit happens.
Sometimes things last for as long as they're supposed to, and then they end, and that doesn't mean it's a bad thing.
Right.
I couldn't find much information about what exactly Margaret or Shepard did in D.C., but that's where they met, and they were married in San Francisco in 1944. Margaret and Shepard left the service in 1945, and one of the artifacts hanging at the Tabard Inn is Margaret's Certificate of Satisfactory Service, which recognizes her achievements as a member of the United States Naval Reserve during World War II.
That's awesome.
There's a bunch of photos of her. There's photos of her and Shepard in front of the Tabard Inn. There is the certificate. There was a bunch of, and there was so much just of her, and that's why I decided to look her up. So I'm also not entirely surprised I couldn't find a ton about what she did, because it was actually very common for women to not talk about their service from World War II, especially the code breakers, because they had been so inundated with the, this shit goes to your grave.
Oh, yeah.
No, the war's over. Don't fucking care. You do not talk about this. You never talk about any of this. So I'm not super surprised that we couldn't find anything about that.
Yeah.
But it's disappointing. I'd love to know more information. So after the war, the couple would live in Ohio, Illinois, and Florida, raising 5 children, and then they would divorce in 1972. Margaret, by all accounts, she was a good mother. She was a very involved mother, and just like her parents, very encouraging. So she supported her kids' educational and social activities, taught the girls to play softball, and was involved in the Busy Bees, which I just assume is like a Girl Scout equivalent kind of thing.
Yeah.
Adorable. Margaret also expected a lot of her kids. According to her obituary, quote, she insisted on rigorous academic achievement from her children, and they, parentheses, usually measured up. And I'm like, I love when an obituary gets a little tongue-in-cheek about the person who died.
Yeah, they're being a little tongue-in-cheek about her height, and I'm here for it.
Yeah. But yeah, she expected a lot from her kids, and she supported them, but she also pushed them. Despite raising 5 children in the 50s and 60s, Margaret pursued a career in books. Some women, after they left the military in World War II, they got married, they settled down, they did the mother and wife thing, which is, there's nothing wrong with that, but this was not a time where women having careers was
that big,
promoted.
It's not a thing. Yeah, exactly.
Or yeah. So she pursued a career in books. As a library science degree holder, Margaret worked in a variety of libraries, rare bookstores. She also served as the board member and volunteer for Recording for the Blind, which is just what it sounds like. I think it's like recording audiobooks for people who have seeing difficulties. And she was also a volunteer with the Fairchild Tropical. I almost said Tropicana. The Fairchild Tropicana Botanical Garden. So to stay active, because she's not already active enough, Margaret rode bikes, played tennis, and practiced yoga well into her 70s and 80s.
Wow.
As her children left the nest and began to settle around the world, like they scattered to the winds and like pursued all of these amazing things all across the globe. She traveled to visit them and her grandchildren. She even traveled to Boston to celebrate her 90th birthday. So she went from Florida to Boston to celebrate her 90th birthday.
Huge. Jesus.
That, you know what? I know it's so hard to think of your birthday as special once you get to a certain age because life is busy. People are busy. It's not like a milestone anymore. It's just like, oh, crap. It's a new number that you have to remember. Like, Kelly, you and I literally forgot how old we were the other day.
No, that was just you.
No, you asked me how old you were, and you're like, I'm 34, right? I had written down the wrong age. I wrote I was 33.
That's
but
what
we
it was.
both fucking forgot. I committed to the mistake.
I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm 34.
I have irreparably damaged those statistics by misremembering my age
your
on
age
that survey.
Wrong. You're so rude, Emily.
I'm the worst.
They're going to have to throw away all of their data.
Complete loss, complete waste. So according to her biography, quote, she once described herself to one of her daughters as no couch potato, and an understatement if there ever was one. Yeah, so she's doing everything all the time up into her 90s. I'm like, I'm in my 30s, and sometimes the idea of like getting up to get a glass of water, I'm like, I don't know. I'm like really tired. I kind of don't want to get up and do anything.
Yeah.
On August 7th, 2016, Margaret Peg Roselia Higgins Kinsman passed away at 97 years old.
Holy crap. That's amazing, though.
Margaret was just one of many intelligent, ambitious, and patriotic women who joined the Waves, Wasps, and WACs, hoping to do their part and perhaps find some adventure along the way. The Waves Wall at the Tabard Inn can be located beneath the stairs in the lobby. And if you go there and you're like, I want to find the way, just ask someone. Because even if they don't know, a dude's just going to like come out of nowhere and be like, hey, I heard you were asking about the Waves Wall, and like open up his trench coat and he's going to have like, no, I'm just kidding. That's not how it goes down. But
like,
they'll tell you because like part of their whole thing is like they're so historic. So it's a small space, hardly a room, that features a variety of photos and posters to commemorate the hotel's time housing Waves.
That's so cool.
Many of the photos are of Margaret, but there are also old cigarette ads, awards, recruitment posters, and photos of other women who served during World War II.
That's
and
awesome.
This is a testament to DC's history, to the Waves that the Tabard Inn housed, to the women who served, and especially to Margaret Peg if you nasty Kinsman. I would have I would have never gone to this place. I would have never gone poking underneath staircases looking for pics.
You're not that creepy.
If Caitlin hadn't told me about this. So Caitlin, with a tour of her own, thank you so much. I literally would have never covered this woman.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's no stumbling upon her the way I stumbled upon Nancy. Probably.
Yeah, I'm not going to run into her in a listicle or anything like that. And it's so cool. And again, the Tabard Inn, really beautiful place. The staff there, absolutely amazing. I kind of like wandered in and I was like, I feel like I shouldn't be here. Like it's this cute little like old inn hotel. And like the staff at the front desk, and they're like, hi, can I help you? I'm like, I'm looking for that. And they're like, are you looking for the restaurant? I'm like, yes. And they're like, it's right back there.
They're probably like, are you okay?
I'm alone and I cried all day yesterday. I need help.
Yeah. You're like, can I have a hug?
I'm just like very overwhelmed right now with lots of feelings. Most of them good, some of them a little existential. It did not help that I was listening to a book about women's experiences during the Vietnam War.
Yeah, that was
also
probably
emotional.
like good choice overall. Maybe not a good choice for that.
I was also listening to that book when I was at Arlington looking for
Graves.
Major Megan McClung's grave. Yeah. And when I found it, and it was a lot. But yeah, I found her fucking grave. I went there.
You're badass.
I did that.
You did the thing.
I also went to the Women's
You
War
did
Memorial,
multiple things.
which was super cool. Well, Kelly, do you want to read from the Big Brave Book of Braveness?
I don't know. It depends on what today has in store for us. How much Ruby Rubin there is.
Robbie Rubin, what he wants us to do. How we can honor him as we are made in Robbie Rubin's image.
Oh, God.
As delicious sandwiches.
The truth that sets you free. That was last time. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. We're on day 8. Really like week 8. I think week 9, 'cause I think we skipped a week in there. Anyways. Day 8. You aren't a mistake.
Lies and slander.
No, what you just said is lies and slander. Anyways, I like it when TV ads remind us to believe in ourselves and be confident we can do anything we want to do. You've seen the ones I'm talking about. An NBC star sits awkwardly on the arm of a couch and says into the camera, "You know those dreams you have? You can do them. Believe in yourself." And then the ding, 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 ding jingle plays as the star crosses the screen. The more you know, people, the more you know.
Oh, that's it. Those are old.
Yeah. Here's something I know. I shouldn't believe in me, at least not in the way those commercials say I should. I've been me long enough to know that I am not someone to be believed in. I mess up. I hurt people's feelings. I care too much about some things and not enough about others. I get lost. I am not perfect. And I don't want to pour my hope or trust into someone as faulty as me. So while I'm grateful for what the TV ads are saying, I don't think it's totally true.
This is the most
I know, I'm
have
like,
been
all
on
of
board
that
with
I
this
agree
book.
with.
I'm like, yes, it's all bullshit.
Yeah, and then I started reading the next paragraph in my head, and I'm like, well, and you lost me. I believe in the me. Is it Ruby or Rudy or
Robbie
Rubin. Thank you. I believe in the me Robbie Rubin made, and in the me Robbie Rubin can make. I believe she made me on purpose and didn't make any mistakes when it came to my creation. That makes me feel brave. And that is the place where I find my courage, knowing that while I am making mistakes, I am not a mistake. That is where you can find your courage too. Maybe your parents never got married. Maybe you were born without the ability to see or hear, or maybe you're missing a limb. Whatever it is, you aren't a mistake.
I'm sorry. One of those things is not like the others.
I'm not done yet. I paused because there was a loud noise outside, and then my dog started barking.
It's like, maybe your parents weren't married. Maybe you're missing limbs.
Yeah, I know. It's like that
Either way, it's like,
very
whoa.
quickly.
These are not the same. Okay.
Robbie Rubin doesn't make mistakes.
No,
I know my right. I know my tendencies and fears, and I also know my gifts and hopes. It's where those meet that I often find Robbie Rubin cheering for me to make the brave choice. We can be confident in how Robbie Rubin made us because her word says we are fearfully and wonderfully made, but we can't do this life or be brave on our own. And it says, be brave. Remind someone you love, a friend, partner, child, spouse, that Ruby Rubin doesn't make mistakes. Or Robbie Rubin, Jesus.
I say, oh yeah. I
do
think we've
like
switched between the two.
I do like the reminding yourself, like, while I am making mistakes, I am not a mistake.
Maxwell,
Maxwell,
you are not a mistake.
So I was
Robbie
on board
Rubin
with
made you.
I was on board with probably a good 80-85% of that.
I mean, I do like the idea where it's like, okay, this whole idea, like, you can do anything, pursue your dreams, like, you're perfect the way you are. It's like, some of it just feels like absolute bullshit because it's like, no, I'm with myself 24/7, and I know none of that is totally true.
We are our own worst enemies. Also, perfection is bullshit.
But yeah, again, it's like, well, that's kind of the point, is that we're fucked up and we're flawed. And because we make mistakes does not mean we ourselves are a mistake.
There you go.
I get, yeah, no.
Yeah. So I was like 85% of it I'm on board with.
Robbie Rubin, bless you.
Just remind everyone, Robbie Rubin does not make mistakes.
Robbie Rubin is the way.
The truth.
Robbie Rubin is love. To love is to know Robbie Rubin.
And to know Robbie Rubin is to be loved.
Aww. Well, Kelly, you are not a mistake. Speaking of love,
you're not a mistake either. Sorry, when you're like lies and slander, I was like, shut up, Emily. You're not a mistake.
I know. It's my coping mechanism. It's my defense mechanism.
Yeah. I get that because I definitely am that way too. So, yeah.
Really quick before we sign off, look at my fucking dog.
I mean, we have to do our outro still, but
no, I know, but
my dogs are still barking.
Look at my fucking dog.
Just so you know,
he's so cute. He went to the spa recently.
Oh, titty.
Yeah,
my
got
dogs
his
have to go to
nails
the
clipped
vet
and got
this
super
weekend,
clean, and he was
so.
beautiful. It was an absolute trap though. So I went to the place to get him and Max groomed, and there was an adoption event going on.
Oh,
so
God.
every corner I went around, there were like small dogs everywhere. There were several Chihuahuas where I was like, oh fuck, I'm in love. Yeah. And then I went to go pick up some cat litter, and the cat litter was behind a table covered in fucking cats because they were also up for. I'm like, oh my fucking. So I texted Egg and I was like, there's an adoption event going on right now. There's Chihuahuas and cats fucking everywhere. It's a trap.
It's a trap.
I mean, that's how you get me. Did I tell you about when Egg and I were out eating at a restaurant and a woman started talking to us about how she just like had a bunch of cats and she's like, you want one?
Jeez.
And I was ready to give this woman all of my personal information so I could go and pick up this cat who looked actually like the devil.
That's funny.
And I would have had Egg not been there. And then several times throughout the evening, I had to look at him and be like, please tell me it was the right choice to not follow that strange woman to her house and with the promise of cats.
Oh, it's fireworks. That's what's going on outside.
'Tis the season. Well, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Whining About Herstory. Like us on Facebook at Whining About Herstory, Instagram at WAHPad.
Our website is whiningaboutherstory.com, where you can find a link to all the things Emily just mentioned, as well as our merch. Oh, God. And a link to our Buy Me a Coffee, where you can donate $5 to buy us a glass of wine, or $15 to have an entire bottle dedicated to you. Or we also have a Patreon and or both, where you can donate for as little as $1 a month to get some bonus content, as well as access to our monthly happy hour.
Both is good.
Both is good.
Both is good.
Both is good.
Also, rate us 5 stars wherever you listen because it pisses off all the right people.
Yeah.
And like, they deserve to be pissed off. Fuck them. They're awful.
And it gives us warm, fuzzy feelings, and we need that right now.
I need to crush up the warm, fuzzy feelings and the validation I get from our listeners and snort it because I am in need. So please rate us 5 stars wherever you listen.
Instead of the need for speed, the need for validation.
The need for esteem. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Whining About Herstory. I'm Emily.
I'm Kelly.
Have an empowered day, y'all.
Bye.
Look at my dog. He's so cute.
He's so cute.
He's so cute. Oh, my God.